everybody. Welcome to lunch in Arbor Marketing. How's everybody doing today? Good. All right, good. Well, thanks for coming. My name is Derek Merriman, CEO of Ingenix Digital Marketing, and I tend to kick off these meetings. And next to me is Stacy Collett of Dollar Bill Printing. The reason Stacy is up here is because she is LA2M treasurer, and she holds this nice basket. And LA2M is a 501c3 nonprofit, in case you didn't know that. Is there anyone here for your very first Lunch in Arbor Marketing meeting? Any first timers? Okay, welcome everybody. Just so you know, we are an educational nonprofit 501c3, and there's no fees to be a member, there's no fees to attend. We pass the hat, so we do it old school. So we suggest a $3 donation. You're welcome to contribute if you want. If you don't have the money, that's fine, you don't have to. So Stacey will pass that around. Yeah, LA2M, we've been around for 3 years. I don't know, since January 1st, 2008. So we've been around a while, and we hold weekly lunch meetings. So every week we're here. Every week we have great speakers. And people say that they learn a lot by attending. Would you agree?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You learn a lot. I mean, not only do you get to meet nice people, but you learn something. That's what we're all about, is education. So, for those of you who are new, I encourage you to follow us on Facebook, and also we have a LinkedIn group which you can join, an open LinkedIn group for Lunch in Arbor Marketing. Just search LA2M. If you want to tweet from this event, it's hashtag LA2M. That's mine. For me. Yeah. It's hashtag LA2M if you want to tweet from this event. We also have a Foursquare check-in. You can check in on Foursquare. And we also have Crowd Juice, which you can check in. Ed Farrell is in here. It's a startup. You can also check in there and use that to say you're going to attend this event and then who you're going to meet at this event. So that's Crowd Juice, which you can get to on the LA2M website. That's a mouthful. We also have an LA2M to go app. So anyone with an iPhone, we have an iPhone app that'll work. It has all these speakers and events and cool stuff. Yeah, so anyways. That's all the things about LA2M. The format is our speaker will talk for about 30 minutes. We may have some time for Q&A. And then at 12:45, what we do is we go around the room in 15 minutes and everybody gets to introduce themselves in 10 words or less. Right? The chamber makes you write it down in the car. We don't do that. Right? We don't do that. We're all about saving the trees. So you just have to say 10 words or less in your head. And some people do it in 5 or less. You're welcome to. I'm kind of joking right now, but the point is keep it brief, and I know I should keep my introduction brief too. But okay, and then that's how we roll. So, without further ado, today's speaker is someone that I've known for a long time. His name is Joe Marr, and he's a really great guy. How many of you know Joe Marr? Yeah, he knows a lot of people. Joe runs the Sandler training in Ann Arbor. And you probably know Mike Wynn is with Sandler Training, and also Rich Austin in the back with Sandler Training. So these guys are here every week at LA2M doing the hard work, right, at the meetings here. Joe rolls in when he has a speaking opportunity. But we love Joe Marr, and the thing I love about Joe is that he always teaches me something. You know, I can kind of consider him the Yoda of sales, and he's better looking than Yoda. But he also tends to know a lot, right? So this is, I would consider, 30 minutes of good, free material that you're about to learn from Joe Marr. And so let's give him a big round of applause. Here we go.
Thanks, Derek. I appreciate it. Is the mic working? Okay. Yeah, my clients tell me that I'm an awesome trainer. And some of them tell me that I'm a really, really good coach. But I have heard that I'm a pretty lame public speaker. So Derek, what were you thinking? Put me up here. That's supposed to be the humor. That's the extent of my comedy.
No refund, sorry.
Greg, you were supposed to laugh at everything I said. Okay. All right, so I really am more of a trainer than I am a public speaker. So is it okay if today I do a training session with the objective that you walk away with one thing you can use practically? Is that okay? Is that a good contract? What about way in the back there? Who's taking notes on their computer? Who's that? Who's that? Did you write that down? Okay. So what we're going to talk about today is the concept, session. Well, let me tell you a little bit about myself. We've been doing sales training for about 10 years now at Sandler Training. We actually opened our doors September 10th, 2001. Great day to open a business. Yeah, our first quarter was the fourth quarter of 2001, and I can assure you nobody was buying sales training in that first quarter of 2001. They were buying generators, canned goods, firearms, duct tape. Anybody remember duct tape? Why were they buying duct tape?
Band-Aid. To go with the plastic.
Seal the windows from the gas and anthrax, right? Oh. Yeah, that's what they were buying. So the first quarter, I took some hostages. There were friends and family that I convinced and cajoled, and they owed me money, so they had to come. But we got through that first quarter, and we've been doing this for 10 years now. And I'm proud to say that some of the most successful, we've had the privilege and honor that we've been able to work with some of the most successful companies, small companies in Ann Arbor over the last 10 years. And one thing we share over the last 10 years is we don't know anything but recession in Michigan the last 10 years. Is that fair? So we are people who are working and playing with the cards we are dealt. We're not looking for excuses. We're not resting on our laurels. We're not hunkered down waiting for the good old days to return. We're making it happen in this economy. And I think that's one thing I really want to emphasize today. That's what we have to do. So the economy isn't for wimps, and I've got some scars, and I'll show you after if you want to see them. But we really need to make sales happen without giving away the store. One of the greatest tendencies we have when things get tough, when competitors, maybe there's more entering the market because in your field, maybe there's more unemployed people that go into business in your space, and suddenly we feel like we have to give it away to get the bid or get the order. And so we're going to talk today about how to avoid that. So some of the challenges we're going to talk about is that most of us get into sales by accident. We didn't set out in our career. We didn't start our lives thinking, I'm going to build my credentials so I can go sell something. Is that fair? Most people are accidentally salespeople. And this economy is no excuse. If you're not hitting your numbers, if you're not making the sales you'd like to make, the more you rely on this one, the less likely you're going to actually achieve what you can achieve. And we're going to talk about the concept of interrupting the pattern from the default system that exists because we're in sales by accident. We found ourselves in a role in our company, maybe we're the owner of our company, and we thought building a website and getting an 800 number was going to make the phone ring off the hook. And then what do we discover? We got to make it happen, right? So we're going to talk about how to interrupt the pattern to get more business. So I'm going to talk about this accidental sales thing. Now, that's the Governator costume there. When you were 8 years old, were you running around the house? I'm guessing it's fair to say that maybe no one in this room was running around the house saying, I want to be a salesman when I grow up. Is that fair? I'm guessing your mother wasn't whispering across your pillow, Derek, you're going to be the best salesman in the world. Right? She wasn't whispering that, right? What was she whispering? What were our parents encouraging us to be? Doctor, lawyer. Boy, even a lawyer gets better space than a salesperson, right? So it's fair to say that that's usually not our aspiration, even though we later find out we're all selling. Is that true? Are we all selling? Is everybody a salesperson in this room? I don't care if you're working for a nonprofit. This is a new. How many nonprofits in the room? Raise your hand. Nonprofit. Is it sales to be engaged in a nonprofit institution? Absolutely. And that's a rude awakening for some people when they realize they gotta go find stuff and get people to buy it. So we got this issue where most people's aspirations aren't to be salespeople. And yet we find ourselves in this most important interaction, the most fundamental interaction or fundamental model in business is this one-on-one interaction between a salesperson and a potential buyer. Is that the single most important relationship in business? The one-on-one interaction between me, the salesperson, and you, the buyer, or me, the buyer, and you, the salesperson, right? Yet, how many people have gone to business school, have a business degree, an MBA? Okay, how much curriculum in those programs were devoted to this single most important interaction in business, the one-on-one sales with the prospect? How much? How much? Zero. So we've got an MBA hanging on our wall, right? And yet the curriculum is very sparse. We're starting to catch on a little bit. I'm on the advisory panel for the EMU Business School Curriculum Board, and in that capacity, I'm starting to help them to develop some curriculum for sales, fundamental sales. U of M has some sales curriculum for graduating MBA entrepreneurs in video module form. So that's what we're talking about in the academic world. Now, why don't the colleges, business colleges, devote curriculum to this one-on-one interaction? Why is it?
They don't have experience in sales.
Okay, maybe there's limited experience. Is it fair to say, sorry, Bud, that sometimes there's a little insulation between the academic world and the commercial world? Fair to say there's a little bit of a barrier there, or a disconnect there sometimes? What other reasons might the business schools not devote curriculum to?
It's hard.
It's difficult. But they don't treat any other difficult issues, do they, in their colleges? I mean, some would say it's subjectivity. Well, you know, how subjective is the psychology field? Medicine. There's a lot of subjectivity across the disciplines they cover, yet they really don't cover this one. I would suggest there's another reason. What's the impression? If I were to play password with you, the game, and she looks like she's having a lot of fun by the way. If I were to play the game password with you, and the secret word was salesman, what clue words would I use to get you to guess that word, salesman?
Shady.
Why are you looking at me while you're saying that? Shady, used car, what else? Snake oil. You know, that's two words, isn't it? It doesn't count.
Hyphenate.
Hyphenate. Okay. Yeah, if there were $1 million riding on it and I could use snake oil, I'd probably use snake oil. Is there anything positive? Would you say helpful, courteous, customer-oriented? Would you use those?
Motivated.
Pardon?
Motivated.
Motivated? Would you? Now, again, I'm a sales guy. I devoted my career to it. I think it's a noble profession. But if there was $1 million riding on it, then guessing the word salesman, would you say motivated? Would you?
Because if the person's motivated and wants to get the sale, pretty much they'll do what they need to do.
Oh, I agree. That's a good term for us who are in sales. But the culture doesn't think that way. What does the culture think about salespeople in general? Pretty negative, right? Pretty negative. There's a stigma associated with sales, yet we have to do it if we're in business. And academia, I think it's another reason that they don't really deal with sales. Now, there's another thing that's going on. Because there is this stigma about sales in our culture, there are a lot of program behaviors involved with that. And psychologists say about 77% of human behavior is what they call program behavior. We behave very predictably in a given set of circumstances. Now the example that I like to use, my clients have heard this 100 times, but bear with me. Greg, you like doctors, right?
Okay.
And you heard there's a sale at Macy's for doctors, 50% off. You go on over there, you go up the escalator, you get off the escalator and walk into the men's department. A nice lady comes up to you and she says, "May I help you, sir?" And you say,
No thanks, just looking.
"No, thank you, just looking." Is that what everybody just said in the mind? Now he's there for the doctors, right? He's for the doctor sale. What? Greg, why don't you say, "Show me where those half-off doctors are at"? Why don't you say that?
Because I'm probably afraid that they're going to show me the full price stock.
Okay, so he's afraid they're going to show him to the full price rack, or maybe walk him past the full price rack, maybe accessorize, right? Shoes, sport coats. So what's Greg's assumption? What's your assumption when the salesperson asks you that question? May I help you? Is it your assumption that they're looking out for your interest? What's your assumption? It's all about them, right? And they probably get a what? Commission. So they don't really care about me, they just care about optimizing their sales. So we've got this program, that's just one example of program behavior that we engage in, and we don't even think about it, we just do it. Another one, I mean, you probably get calls from salespeople trying to sell you telecom, right? I don't know what you're paying for your telecom, but I can save you 20%. What do you say? I mean, you tell them anything, give them off the phone, right? I just signed a contract, right? I'm all set. Even if you're really in a position to sign a new contract, why don't we tell that person, "You know what, I was just thinking about a new telecom provider and you called at the right time." Why don't we say that? And there's a program response. Our initial reaction to someone we don't know from Adam is to repel them. There? It's a defensive program response mode. So that's what we're dealing with. And so when I work with clients, one of the first things that we have to recognize is most of what's holding them back from doing more sales than they could do is all the programming they carry around about the sales role, and often they're avoiding executing their sales role because they don't want to look, sound, act, smell, feel like a what? Salesperson. So if we don't recognize that first, that it's half of our bag is between our ears, or in our heart, in our gut, then we're probably going to not do the things that we could do or need to do for sales. So, accidental salespeople, we get, there's a lot of ways we put ourselves in a position for accidents. I thought this visual was apropos, but my mom and dad had me when I was, me and my twin sister when she was 40. So, I know this form of birth control. That's a pregnancy test, by the way. Boy, it seemed funny to me. I guess my humor's not there. Okay. But the challenge, a lot of things happen in our lives by accident if we let them happen, if we just are a victim of the circumstances and allow the circumstance to dictate our outcomes. How do we change that? How do we change being a victim of circumstance? Taking some measure of control. Right? And what means do we have to take some measure of control of subjective, difficult situations? What do we do in our operations department of business? What do we do in manufacturing? What do we do in our billing? We make a system of it, right? A process of predictable, reproducible steps that hopefully deliver a reproducible outcome. Is that fair? That's what we need to do. So our biggest enemy for doing this is ourselves, because maybe we just want to let our social media strategy or our advertisements or our marketing do the work for us. And if we do that, what are we going to get? The minimum or the maximum? Probably the minimum. So I'd like for a moment, I'd like you to take a minute and take out your business card, and with a pen, I'd like you to answer these two questions. I'd like you to write down what's your biggest sales obstacle, challenge, problem, and don't put the economy, don't put the exchange rate for the Chinese yuan. Put down something that your professional development, something that training or your personal growth or development could change. The second question I'd like you to answer is, how much more could you make? How much is that issue, that problem, that challenge, that obstacle costing you? Or how much more could you make if you were to resolve that issue in dollars? I don't care if it's your top line revenue or gross profit or commission in your pocket. What kind of impact financially, economically would it have on you or your company if you were to resolve it? The third thing I'd like you to do is to write no and yes below those two answers. And I'll come back to that later. Just write no and yes. All right, so one of the most common answers I get from people when I ask them what's their biggest sales problem, and I don't coach them about if you were to, something that could be affected by professional development or growth or training, they say, Joe, it's the economy, stupid. I really don't have any control over it. They say it's the economy. If the economy would just come back. Now let's test this. This is a pretty common excuse or rationalization for the straits that many of us are in our businesses today. And that certainly there's an impact on our markets for this tough economy. But let's test the notion that maybe, how many have said to themselves or their boss or their spouse, nobody's buying anything? How many have said that? Nobody's buying anything. The other guy's giving it away. How many have said that? Boy, we don't have a lot of honest people in the room. Nobody's ever said that the economy sucks, and that's why my sales are struggling. Okay? Let's imagine, and I'd like you to do this for yourself. Oh, I have a handout. Goodness. While I'm doing this, I'll talk. I'd like you to, while I'm handing this out, I'd like you to think about what is the total market, available market for your product or service in a reasonable geography for you. A market that you could serve. What is the total market for your product or service in the market that you serve? Now, I realize you probably don't have the data on this, but I'd like you to take a stab at it. Is it $1 million? Is it 10 million? Is it 100 million? Just more about scale than precise numbers. If you had to guess how much business, total business for your product or service is available to you right now. Let's take, I'll take one. When we say we're talking about residential painting services, interior, exterior. And let's just say, and this is totally off the top of my head, I don't know what it is, but let's just say within the hour drive of Ann Arbor, a reasonable service area for me, the small painter company, it's $100 million. Let's just say it's that. I don't know if it is or it isn't. Don't challenge me on this. These numbers are totally off the top of my head. But I'd like at your table to do your number. What is it? Then I'd like you to say, okay, the sucky economy is cut it in half. Let's just assume it's only 50 million if I get conservative and agree that the economy is a major influence on this business. Then I'd like you to think about what's your current revenue. What is your company's or your personal contribution to the current revenue of your business? Now let's say mine currently is $500,000. I'm doing $500,000 in business, and it's a 50 million available market because of the recession. If this is kind of the way your pie shape looks, anybody look like that? Silhouette? Only a few of you? No, most of you see that pie shape? No, most of you only have a sliver of the remaining available market? Raise your hand if that's what you have. That's fine. So what's the real issue? Is the issue that there's no business, nobody's buying? What's the real issue that you're faced with as a business owner or a salesperson? What's the real issue?
Competition.
I'm sorry?
Competition.
Competition is the challenge, but what's the real issue for you if you're going to optimize your sales?
It's gotta be me.
I'm sorry?
It's gotta be me.
It's got to be me, and I've got to face that it's not about there's nobody doing business. There's plenty more business. I could double my sales, and it'd still only be a sliver. So the real challenge is that how do we adapt to get a bigger piece of the remaining pie? That's the real issue, if we want to face it. If we want to hunker down and wait for the good old days to return and continue to do what we've always done, we're probably going to remain where we are. Or maybe even falling out. So in order to get on a growth track, we've got to adapt to get a bigger piece of the remaining pie. The issue isn't that there's nobody buying. Everybody okay with that? So this is how we deal with this. Let's talk about patterns. I talked about the issue of pattern interrupt. This is the bottom part. By the way, you like my diagrams? Those are very sophisticated. They're copyrighted. Okay? If you reproduce them, I'll send my lawyers after you. But anyway, I did these Howard on my own on PowerPoint. Pretty impressive. Did you get a hand? So there's patterns, and we want to interrupt the pattern, and there's this programming issue. One of the patterns is there's a buyer's pattern, and it's very reproduced throughout actually all world cultures in business. And there's some very predictable stages or steps in the buyer's pattern of behavior in a buying situation. And so we're going to go down this way with them. So there's 4 headings if you want to take these notes. Down this left side, there's 4 headings. There's 4 general steps to buyer strategy. The first one being, when we approach a person who doesn't know us from Adam, or maybe they don't even heard of us, but we approach them to attempt to sell to them, and they perceive we're attempting to sell to them, the first step is we're going to be wary. Is that fair? We're going to hold our cards close to our vest. Even if we have a desire for their product or service, we're likely to not reveal that. That's what Greg was talking about. He was there for the doctors. He held his cards close. And in the most extreme case, we lied. And didn't Greg lie to me or lie to the salesperson? He was there for doctors, right? Yet he told her, no thank you, just look. He didn't tell that poor lady what his real purpose was. So somewhere it's written we can lie to salespeople and still get ahead. There? Is it okay to lie to a salesperson? Come on, let's be real. Is it okay? Sure. It's up to me. No, never mind. Second step in the buyer strategy is, sometimes they call us, sometimes as business owners, we get calls about services that we might entertain looking at another alternative. And they ask us they say, well, we don't really need it, but why don't you send me a brochure and maybe a quote, and I'll take a look at it. But, I'm not saying I'm not doing it. So what is that? It's information for how much commitment? Information for no commitment at all. And that we call that free consulting. So we do it because we think we need to get a dog in the hunt, right? We need to, maybe we have a policy, we need to get out 100 quotes so that we close 10 this month to make our numbers. And yet, does it sometimes take a lot of effort and time to put together these proposals? How many people spend more than 4 to 8 hours, man hours, on putting together a proposal? That's a lot of equity, isn't it? And if we don't have any commitment at all, and we think we have a 1 in 10 shot, boy, we're turning into a paper mill instead of the business that we're in. So the third step in the buyer strategy is they pretend. They come back to us and they say, got your package, Katie, awesome. You know, we're entertaining 3 other vendors for this, but yours, the color-coded tabs and the index and the table of contents make your package a lot easier to follow. You know, honestly, last week you weren't even on our radar. This week you're on our short list. What's short list a euphemism for? What's it mean to Katie? Her position in the sale. She's not it, right? What do they tell the guy that's it? What do they tell the vendor they really prefer to do business with? You're it. You're it. Katie gave me a bid that's frankly more complete, and it's 5% less. You got to work on this, and you'll renew with us this year. That's what they tell the guy that's it. Short list sounds good. We're in the hunt. We're down from 1 out of 10 to 1 out of 3. But be honest with yourself. If you don't know anything more than that, it really isn't much better than a cold call. So they pretend interest. Now, why do they tell us? Why do they pretend like they're interested? Why don't they just say, "Hey, Katie, thanks for giving me the stick. I need to beat Greg up with it." Why do they say that?
Because they are. I mean, they're not going to tell you that they're using you.
They might feel a little slimy, but you know they have a conscience. But even if they don't have a conscience, maybe they need 3 bids every time they do something, and they know you do a good job of putting a package together, so they can count on you to bring them that 3rd bid, right? So whether they're doing it because they have a conscience, or whether they're doing it because they want to keep the pipeline information, free consulting open, either way, it's no good for me or Kate, is it?
No.
So the 4th step in the buyer strategy, we call them back when we're supposed to render a decision, get a decision, and what do we get? Who can guess the 4th step? Anybody? Voicemail jail. Yeah, it's hide time. They hide. And this person who's been imminently available all along suddenly is impossible to get through to. They're on vacation, they're in a meeting, they can't find him, he went out for a smoke, whatever. But there's a lot of excuses that put us into voicemail jail. We leave a message and, you know, it sounds something like, hey, it's Joe, we're going to get cooking on the project. We really need to get the 1st step started next week. Just following up, appreciate you letting me know we can get this going. And what happens? Nothing. So the salespeople, we go in and we probe for needs, and we got our eyes wide open, and we attempt to get the information we need to put together a value-added proposal. And we're getting misinformation or less than complete information. Kind of prevents us from putting together a good proposal. But we do our best to put together a proposal based on that limited information. And then we attempt to close it. And it goes into a step where we call it handling objections, right? They throw us objections, we handle it. They throw us another one, we handle it. And some people would call this negotiation step. And I would argue that this is no place to negotiate because we've given them our main source of leverage for negotiation already. What is that?
Quote.
The quote, the information. Our information is our greatest source of leverage. We relinquished it already. We really have a poor negotiating position. Very good to you. And the last step in the process is, and I hate this one the most because I was the last born child. My next oldest brother is John. He's 3 years older than me. When I was 8 years old, who did I want to hang out with? Him. How did he feel about that?
No.
Pest, right? So I've got heavy programming. I refuse to be a pest. But we chase. We chase people that we really haven't given permission to tell us no. And so they just want to avoid that confrontation, so they stay deep cover. Well, there's another way, and I'll share that as quickly as I can. How am I going to wait?
About 5 minutes.
5 minutes, good.
If you don't do questions, you get 10 minutes.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. So I'll slow down my speech. I'm just talking kind of fast. So it's a new way. There's a new way to approach this, and I really think this is good stewardship for your business interests in every sales situation. And it's 7 steps. So it's more involved on the front end. It requires discipline and planting your feet and asserting that you have a stake in this process, and you're not just going to be the free font of wisdom or free-flowing, free consulting for a prospect. You're going to be a good steward of your business interests in this process. And the first step in that is we're going to interrupt the pattern. We're going to interrupt the pattern. This pattern over here on the left is not good for us. It's not good for the prospect. How can you give them a good proposal if you don't have a complete picture of what fits them? So their defensive position prevents them from getting the best that you have to offer because they don't even know what to ask for from you. Fair? Do they know your product line? Do they know all the ways you can serve them? So we're actually doing them a favor by interrupting the pattern and backing up. And another way we do it is something called we want to set ground rules for how this relationship will develop, including, and this is the counterintuitive thing, we're completely okay if we figure out we're not a fit in this interaction. It's okay if you say no to me at the end of this. It's okay, and I'm going to ask you if it's okay if I say no to you. Now, why is that important to get up clear to a prospect on the front end of the process? Does that interrupt the pattern? Do most salespeople come in saying, I really want you to tell me no? No. But we're starting there in order to get them comfortable and safe to open up and tell us all that they can tell us, so we can figure out if we can serve them and how well we can serve them. Now, we got to be real about that. What's another key source of leverage in negotiation? Willingness to walk away. So we have to be genuine about this. I know we're sometimes the mortgage is due and we're really hot to get this sale, and we're maybe worried we won't, but then when we project that in our mannerisms and our body language and how we talk to the customer, we actually make it less likely to happen. If they perceive we're desperate, what else? How do they extrapolate that about our service or product? There's a reason they're desperate, right? So we need to do everything we can to really believe in our heart and help them believe we're okay if we figure out there's no fit. We're really okay with that. But we need to understand their position deeply before we can recommend our product or our solution. So the third step, and these next 3 are the qualifying steps. The first one is of the qualifying steps is, do they have a compelling reason to change? Do they have any compelling reason to change? And is there any passion about that? Is there any drive or stress about that? And their change could be changing from another vendor to you, or it could be from nothing to you, or doing it in-house to you. But is there a compelling reason to do that? Do they express that? And that's deeper than needs. Needs are about what they want to accomplish. Compelling reasons are why they want to accomplish it. And what do they perceive the consequences if they don't? What do they expect will happen if they don't resolve this issue? So we go deeper than that. And it takes some finesse and grace and skill to get there. The next step is we need to figure out if they can make the investment. And it's not just money. It's will they invest the time, effort, energy, and money adequate to adopt my product or service? Do they have the time to do it? I mean, some of you have services where they have to put significant man hours just to implement into your project, just to implement your product or service. Is that fair? Anybody in that situation? If they're not willing to do that, then it's not a fit. But I want to know if they have the time, effort, energy, and money to invest to adopt my solution. And then finally, I want to know, these 3 steps are the qualifying steps. I want to know what their decision process is. What's their criteria? How will they make the decision? How will they rate us versus the alternatives? and whether or not I can measure up to that. And then and only then, if I know they have compelling reason, I know they have the time, effort, and energy budget, and money budget, and they know that I can give them a solution compatible with their decision-making process, do I give them anything that looks like a proposal, and we actually call it fulfillment, because they just told us under what terms they would do business. We've already negotiated, we've already worked it out, or I'm not proposing. I'm parting as a friend. I'm gracefully choosing not to bid or quote this project. Final step is post-sell, and people, there's a couple of ways we do the post-sell step. And one thing we want to do is prevent buyer's remorse, because people, when they make a buying decision about anything of significance, tend to have some anxiety after the sale, and I want to prevent backups. Okay, so I'm going to help them deal with that, whatever anxiety they have while they're in my presence, so I can deal with it. So that I don't get a 2 in the morning voicemail, hey Joe, you know that check I gave you? It's no problem, but don't cash it. I put a hold on it. I'll call you next week. What happens? What step in the pattern do they go to? The 4, right? Good. So that's the new way. And we call this junction here Wimp Junction. That's WJ. And that's where, now that you guys know that there's a way to do it where you're a good steward of your interests, and it's a mutual relationship, it's not a one-way street, you're going to feel bad every time you feel yourself going down this path. Now, if you feel really bad about it, you come talk to us. Right? But I hope you got some idea what things you might want to talk about before you ever give someone a presentation or a proposal again. And that's what I hope you got out of this session here. So this is the systematic approach legibly. It's the Sandler selling system. You already took these notes. The challenges I would make to you is if you are in accidental sales mode, I challenge you to ask yourself, are you sucking up and going into sales calls with happy ears, meaning hear what you want to hear, short listing, that kind of stuff, or are you creating a healthy mutual relationship with your prospects? Are you getting them to open up and be honest with you? Are you buying into the BS about the economy, or are you owning your sales? Do you own your sales performance? The degree that you face that, you can choose a mindset of opportunity. You can start to optimize getting a bigger chunk of the share available. And then finally, this interrupting the pattern thing changes the game. It's a game changer. And you heard what Derek said about me. I didn't know you loved me, Derek. That's awesome. I love you too. But they actually appreciate this process better. Your customers will love you more than they do now if they currently perceive you as telling them what they want to hear all the time. So, I'd like to do a raffle on the business card. Can we do it while we're doing the talk?
The interviews, yeah, sure.
Okay, while we're doing the interviews. So, if you let me tell you what the yes and no means. No, if you're done with Joe Marr and you agree as a lame public speaker and you don't ever want to talk to him again, just circle no, or for any reason, if you just don't think it's a good idea. However, if you think it's a good idea, and we might be able to help you in a deeper way, and you want to spend a couple hours with me or Mike or Rich, examine that. There's no cost in that. You want to invest a couple hours just seeing if there is maybe some way we can help you. Then circle yes, and we'll give you a call, and we'll figure out if it makes sense to get together. Is that fair? So circle yes, and if you circle no, you'll still be in the raffle, so don't worry. The raffle is for the Wall Street Journal bestseller, Amazon Business Book bestseller, The Sandler 49 Rules. And so we'll pass this around while we're doing our commercials. And I appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody. Beer being served yet, or still too early?
No beer right now.
No beer?
All right, thanks, Joe. Give him a big round of applause. All right, so this is where we go around, we have 15 minutes, it's 12:45. Pay the men and women in black, and then we're going to pass the mic. And just real briefly, who you are, what your company is, and if you're looking for something, let us know in 10 words or less. And we'll start with you. There you go.
Hi, my name is Katie Murray. I'm the marketing manager with Gene Codes, and we develop DNA sequence analysis software.
Hello, I'm Todd Chamberlain. I work for Sprint Business Solutions. I do a lot of things outside of handsets, which a lot of people are very surprised ways that we can fight back against this economy.
Hi, my name is Greg Peters. My company is The Reluctant Networker, and what I'm looking for is opportunities to speak with groups who might gain benefit from a good networking technique.
Hi, I'm Armin Kabodian. I represent Jive Software here in the Michigan market. Jive provides social business platforms for Fortune 500 companies.
I'm Jim Kymig. I'm an account manager with Gene Codes Corporation. I work with Katie.
Joseph